Okay, let's get this out of the way. This is not a list of our favorite movies, the best movies, or even the movies that made the most money. Instead, each of these 12 films defined a small corner of culture in the 1980s, and when you put them all together, you get a pretty good idea of what the decade had on its mind. We're talking Cold War paranoia, women in the workplace, and the Reagan administration. So apologies to The Shining, The Empire Strikes Back, and 1,000 other classics that didn't make this list. We have seen them, but have you seen these? John Hughes made some of the most beloved films of the 80s, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but none of them have a legacy quite like his second feature, The Breakfast Club. Taking place over the course of a single detention, it takes 5 of the decade's high school stereotypes, the jock, the nerd, the bad boy, the weird girl, and the popular girl, and allows them to break free of the roles, even if it's just for a little while.
I hate it. I hate having to go along with everything my friends say.
Most movies of the era were more than happy to lean into teenage tropes, but The Breakfast Club proved that people tend to have a lot more in common with each other than we think. All of us have had to deal with peer pressure, social anxiety, and adults that just don't understand.
We're all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it, that's all.
The Breakfast Club is full of memorable moments, but none have had as much of a lasting impact as its ending. It's famously set to the Simple Minds song, Don't You Forget About Me, and sure enough, we didn't. Part man, part machine, all cop. That's the tagline for the appropriately titled RoboCop, which is either a delightfully violent sci-fi flick or a thoughtful satire about technology and justice, depending on who you ask. Here's the thing though, it's both.
Your move, creep.
Even though the beloved Paul Verhoeven movie came out in 1987, RoboCop still feels incredibly fresh. Starring Peter Weller in the title role, RoboCop takes place in a dystopian version of Detroit where crime is rampant and the police are owned by corporate interests. After Officer Alex Murphy is shot to death in the line of duty, he's turned into a cyborg and sent back to the streets.
Excuse me, Robo, any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.
Despite his fancy new abilities though, RoboCop is forced to grapple with the loss of his humanity. Is there still a human soul lurking underneath all that chrome and code? Sure, American science fiction was asking that question long before RoboCop, but even after nearly 4 decades, it remains a must-watch for both those dreading and those looking forward to the robot apocalypse.
I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.
John Carpenter has made some of the stickiest horror movies out there, and in 1988's They Live, he added social commentary to the gooey mixture. At the tail end of 8 years in Reagan's America, he channeled his frustrations into a sci-fi horror classic just in time for Election Day.
We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Wrestler Rowdy Roddy Piper plays a drifter who finds a pair of glasses that let him see beneath the plasticky surface of the world. What he sees is a well-in-progress takeover of the world by hideous aliens using subliminal messaging to make the public even more sheep-like.
That's like pouring perfume on a pig.
They Live is bouncy, fun, and easy to identify with. Even in the corporate consumerist 80s, no one wanted to think of themselves as a conformist. It begs for a rewatch every few years, especially now as chatbox and AI slop push new frontiers in creepy social engineering. At a brisk 93 minutes, 6 of which are taken up by a famously prolonged fight scene, They Live is worth watching just to hear Piper deliver one of the most iconic one-liners of the era.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Far beyond its physical location in New York City, the term Wall Street implies a certain kind of business and a certain kind of person. We all know the type, a gray suit who works in finance and only thinks about 3 things: money, cash, and dollars. The commerce-driven 80s saw this cultural idea play out in real life, preserved for eternity in Oliver Stone's 1987 film Wall Street. Talk about good timing, too. The October 1987 stock market crash had rattled the economy not long before the film's release, so people were interested in a critical treatment of stockbrokers. Sure enough, actor Michael Douglas laid their motivations bare in a monologue that's constantly quoted to this day.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Douglas and about 6 pounds of hair gel star as Gordon Gekko, whose mentality came to stand as a kind of shorthand for 1980s corporate culture and its excesses, or a hero to those who seek that almighty dollar. While Douglas's Gekko was far from the originator of the villainous businessman trope, he offered a compelling and timely take and won an Oscar for his efforts. His performance sent a very specific message to some particularly ruthless types. As the late hedge fund manager Seth Tobias put it, I recall looking at that film and saying, "That's what I want to be."
It's all about bucks, kid. The rest is conversation. You lose.
In 1984, the Cold War was still running reasonably hot. Nuclear weapons were on hair triggers, and the US under Ronald Reagan was beefing up its military to challenge the Soviet Union. That year saw the release of Red Dawn, the story of some Colorado teenagers who band together to resist the Soviet invasion of the United States. The message of Soviets bad, all American teens good found a warm welcome among moviegoers. The Soviets might have had nukes, but they didn't have the moxie and gumption of the McDonald's-fed teenage freedom fighters portrayed in the film. Described as anti-war by its director John Milius, Red Dawn still blows up enough Russians to court the most jingoistic moviegoer.
Go die, Yankee. Die. Gorski, Stepan Eugenievich, no one gives a damn who you are!
Red Dawn also stands out as an early credit for some of the famous faces that would dominate the silver screen in coming years. Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, Leah Thompson, and Jennifer Grey appeared in the film early on in their careers, and the legendary Harry Dean Stanton joined them to add a bit of gravitas to the mix.
Avenge me! Avenge me!
If there's one thing we can count on from American moviegoers, it's that they love watching teenagers die. While slasher films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas, and Halloween gained notoriety in the 70s, the 80s proved that the subgenre was here to stay. It's a tried and true formula. A masked or unseen killer picks off teenagers in a variety of spectacularly violent ways, culminating with the ultimate confrontation between the killer and the final girl. But that's not always where things end. If the film made money, it would spawn a series as deathless as The Killer, with sequels galore driving the body count into the dozens. The first successful slasher of the new decade was 1980's Friday the 13th, which established the teenage camp counselor as the perfect victim. The movie sees its cast chopped, pierced, sliced, and stabbed over the course of its hour-and-a-half runtime, with the final showdown being one of the most convincing struggles in the genre. Friday the 13th spawned a lucrative series of films of varying quality, cementing Jason Voorhees as one of the most recognizable fictional killers in history. Just remember, he's not the killer in the original. He's not even in it until the very end. 1982 saw the world fall in love with E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the friendly alien who found himself stranded on Earth from the Steven Spielberg movie of the same name. Moviegoers couldn't get enough of his wrinkly face, his goofy voice, or his friendship with 10-year-old Elliot.
E.T. phone home.
E.T. mania was so strong that MCA, the parent company of Universal Pictures, saw fit to flood stores across America with colossal amounts of merchandise. The alien's kind little face was plastered on hundreds of different products: books, toys, food, a famously bad video game, and even stranger and questionably ethical ones like vitamins and shot glasses. Hey, at least they put them on ashtrays. It's a fantastic movie, sure, but to an extent, the film is secondary. The E.T. phenomenon is really about trucks and ships and landfills full of stuff. The titanic carbon footprint of E.T. is a shame, because at its core, the movie is a lovely story about friendship across cultural and linguistic divides. The boy and the alien like each other, help each other, and come to understand each other despite the alien's limited vocabulary.
I'll be right here.
It's just a shame that E.T. became a symbol of merchandising rather than a symbol of love. The 80s loved work, or at least the idea of work. With the economy booming and the regulations slashing Reagan administration in office, work, money, and business appeared in pop culture as reflections of financial success. Capitalism at its finest. Mike Nichols' 1988 film Working Girl showcases the decade's vision of the high-pressure workplace, with a central conflict occurring when an executive takes credit for a receptionist's good idea. When the receptionist decides to pose as her own boss, chaos ensues. Featuring a woman-centered cast that reflected the changing gender dynamics of the era, Working Girl pitted Melanie Griffith against Sigourney Weaver in a classic blonde versus brunette rivalry with Harrison Ford as their shared love interest.
I have a head for business and a bod for sin. Is there anything wrong with that?
In addition to the film's charm and its lens on the workplace of the 80s, the movie is also the perfect time capsule for the latter half of the decade. The aesthetic is on full display, including structured blazers, huge boxy electronics, and some truly startling hairstyles. Say what you will about sexism and backstabbing, but sometimes the real villain is Moose.
Now get your... what did you call it?
Bony ass.
Right. Bony ass out of my sight.
One of the classic archetypes of the 1980s was the Valley Girl, a materialistic, shallow, and almost always blonde teenage girl who cared only about clothes and boys. In 1983, the stereotype was solidified by the release of the movie Valley Girl, in which the title character falls in love with a punk played by Nicolas Cage. By the next year, the stereotype was due for a shakeup, which it got with the underrated cheerleaders versus zombies flick Night of the Comet.
What is this, trick or treat?
Come here.
What?
Come here.
A comet passes close to Earth, with the unfortunate side effect of turning most people into piles of red dust and others into zombie-like monsters. Only a handful of people are left unscathed, including 2 teenage sisters, one a valley girl, the other a tough-talking brunette. And what better way to celebrate than to have a little fun in the empty streets of Los Angeles before killing zombies and fighting evil scientists.
Do you have your MasterCard on you? No. Good, because you don't need it. The stores are open!
Protagonist Reggie and Sam Belmont, played by Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney, respectively, are funny, brave, and much more resourceful than other bubble-headed 80s characters.
See, this is the problem with these things. Daddy would have gotten us Uzis.
Audiences have gone crazy for 80s nostalgia over the past decade, but back when the 80s were actually happening, the times that most people were nostalgic for were the 50s and the early 60s. Relative normalcy had returned following the end of World War II, and US involvement in Vietnam had yet to escalate. That gave people time to do things like fall in love with sexy dance instructors at upscale Catskills resorts, according to Dirty Dancing at least.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Dirty Dancing probably isn't the most historically accurate portrait of the year 1963, but who needs historical accuracy when you have vibes? For older audiences, it was a look at a seemingly simpler time, but even teenagers who were born in the 70s could relate when the movie hit theaters in 1987. Lots of young people have summer crushes they pursue despite their parents' disapproval, even if most of them are no Patrick Swayze.
You're wild.
What?
You're wild.
Few images in cinema history are quite as iconic as Swayze lifting Jennifer Grey during the film's climactic number. The dancing may not be particularly dirty by today's standards, but that hasn't stopped Dirty Dancing from influencing nearly every dance movie that followed it.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
We don't have to tell you how good Back to the Future is. You already know. And as a badass time machine, a wacky scientist, rock and roll, and non-threatening heartthrob Michael J. Fox is Marty McFly. Indeed, Back to the Future represents one of the best types of 80s movies, the crowd pleaser. There's something for everyone in the flick's goofy yet heartfelt vision of 1955, which is no small achievement for a movie about making sure your parents eventually, you know.
Whoa, wait a minute, Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me?
Precisely.
Whoa, this is heavy.
In today's reboot-heavy cinema landscape, making a very popular movie from a fresh idea seems wonderfully quaint. Back to the Future is also one of the few popular series of its time that hasn't been remade or rebooted. It got 2 sequels, and that was it. The trilogy has proved that a beloved franchise can come to a graceful end instead of rattling down the road Simpsons style until the heat death of the universe.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Can men and women be friends, or does sex always get in the way? That's the question at the heart of When Harry Met Sally, which might just be the best rom-com of the decade. Hitting theaters halfway through 1989, it polished and modernized the genre in advance of its 90s successes. It also gave us some of the most famous quotes in movie history, like,
I'll have what she's having.
Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan star as the title characters who repeatedly enter and leave each other's lives until they decide to try and strike up a proper friendship. But they really want to be friends, or do they want something more?
You know, you may be the first attractive woman I have not wanted to sleep with in my entire life.
That's wonderful, Harry.
Some of the beats of When Harry Met Sally can seem trite to a modern viewer, but that's mostly because every rom-com of the 21st century has taken inspiration from it in one way or another. There's a meet-cute, a reunion against the odds, hijinks, and plenty of laughs. Such a basic concept could have ended up as one of 1,000 forgettable rom-coms from the 80s, but in the hands of the late, great Rob Reiner, it ended up being one of the most memorable and enjoyable movies around. At the end of the day, it's just nice to spend a couple of hours watching generally well-meaning people fall in love.
You realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.